Hi everyone! So today we're going to talk about the onstage interview, and I have notes up on the screen in front of me, so if I'm not looking in the right place, it's because I'm reading those. Also, just a heads up, I'm going to be using a brush as a microphone for a demonstration, like all teenage girls usually do. Little past that age, but that's okay. So, onstage interview is probably the most nerve-wracking part of a pageant. You're put on the spot, on the stage, in front of everybody, and asked questions, some of which you probably have no idea what the answer is. That's okay, I'm going to help you. So, some of my tips. To start with, how to stand, and I'm going to stand on my chair a little bit because it's about the best I've got. While standing on stage, you should be in the pageant stance, which we talked about in my last video, the walk. The link will be in the description of this video if you want to watch it. While being asked, you should have the leg furthest away from whoever's asking, usually the MC. The leg furthest away from the MC should be the one that's forward so that you don't have your crotch wide open to the audience. Not pretty. I also suggest standing slightly angled towards the MC or whoever's asking. Now, if you're going to hold your own microphone, this is where I get to stand on my chair. I would recommend holding it in one hand, just down by your side, as opposed to this. This is very bad. Adam and Eve left the fig leaves in the garden, so we don't need to make any with our hands here. So whether you're facing this direction, I would hold it on the outside, or this direction. Just casually hold it in your hand there. It just makes it a little bit less awkward, and you seem a little more confident than, crossing your hands in front of your body makes you feel kind of closed off. Basic body language stuff. Sorry, scrolling through notes. If you're not holding your own mic, you can do one of two options. The MC will have the mic and be asking you the question. Here, I have a hairbrush, let's use it. So if the MC's like, so tell me your name, he'll go like this. You can either just take the microphone from him, hold it yourself and answer it, which is what I prefer to do, or you can see where he's holding it, kind of step up to it and talk into his. Either way is fine. Like I said, I prefer to hold it, but either way is fine. Just remember that confidence is the key here. So don't do something in between. Do one or the other. So we'll move on to the most important part of the onstage interview, which would be your answer. When answering a question, you really need to show what you know, but don't try to act like you know something you don't. So that's really important. Also, make sure you actually answer the question, because there are a lot of people that they get up into that situation and you can tell that they don't know the answer, and so they just kind of shimmy their way all the way around it and never actually get to the answer. So you really want to make sure that you do that. So I'll start talking to you a little bit about what you know. Make sure you watch the news. Be up to date on everything that's going on around you and in the world, and form an opinion on it. Forming an opinion is probably the most important part, because a lot of the questions you'll be asked that are political, there's not a right answer. It's what you feel and you believe. So if you're not watching the news and you don't have any idea what's going on, you're not going to have an opinion on it. So you really want to be sure to know what your stance is on everything. The questions that aren't political will more than likely be about your platform if you're doing a pageant with a platform. And so you really need to study and do your research and come up with everything there is to know about your platform. It takes a lot of work, but it pays off in the end. And talking about that, we'll move on to the next part, not trying to answer something that you don't know. So if you're trying to answer something that you don't know, it usually comes off very confusing and makes you look kind of like you don't know what you're doing up there. And you don't want that. So the best thing to do if you don't know the answer is to simply say, for example, well, I haven't learned that yet. I guess I'm going to have to do some more research. Or something to that extent. I wouldn't use those exact words, but and then actually go and do your research and figure it out. That's one of the most important things, because then if you're ever asked that question again, you'll be able to answer it. For example, I was asked a question at one point. Well, my platform was asthma awareness. My question was, how do you educate the public on the difference of having an asthma attack and not being able to breathe? And on the stage, I was like, yeah, you can't. Because if you're having an asthma, if the kid that you're dealing with is having an asthma attack, you may not know one way or the other. That kid has to know if they were diagnosed with asthma in order for it to make sense. And at the time, I was just like, you can't. The only way to know the difference is if that person knows that they have asthma. And so it really threw me off, but I was able to go back and research it and learn that the best thing to do is treat it like an asthma attack and then have them go visit their doctor or healthcare provider and figure it out whether they have asthma or not. So it's all about learning. Let me see, I lost my place in my notes here. Like I said, this will probably come up with questions about your platform rather than about politics. If you don't know something about politics, you probably just weren't paying attention. And usually if you listen to the question, you can, if you don't really know what they're talking about, you can form an opinion pretty much on the spot. So lastly, and most importantly, actually answer the question. Don't try to make the answer longer than it needs to be and end up over-explaining it and having it end somewhere totally different than where the answer should be. So it's okay to have a short and sweet answer. You just want to make sure that it's not a one-word answer with no explanation. Give a little bit of an explanation, but don't try to overdo it. If you're in a system that you have a time limit on, I don't recommend, well, you shouldn't feel like you have to fill that whole time period. So if you have 30 seconds to answer a question that would normally take you 10 or 15 seconds, answer it in 10 or 15 seconds. Don't try to fill the whole time. You want to come across educated, and the harder you try to fill that whole time, the less educated you're more likely to come across. So I have one last bit of advice here, and that's where to look on an onstage question. It's kind of a complicated question there. Do you look at the audience? Do you look at whoever's asking you the question? Do you look at the judges? Well, the answer is yes, just not all at the same time. So while you're being asked the question, I prefer to look at the MC or whoever's asking me. I tend to get to hear the question a little better and understand it a little better if I'm looking at them. Now, again, you're not turned directly sideways looking at them. You're still angled toward the audience. Just acknowledge that they're talking to you and see them, kind of like a conversation. And then when you go to answer, I like to start off acknowledging the judges and answering to them first, starting off my answer there, and then finishing by talking a little bit to the audience. Now make sure when you talk to the audience, you don't just look straight in front of you. Make sure you're looking to everyone a little bit. For me, answering the questions this way makes it feel a little bit more personal, and makes the audience as well as the judges feel like you're talking directly with them. So that's some of my advice on your onstage interview. Good luck with your next pageant. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos to come in the future. And I started a blog, so the link will be in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye!